Hi everyone, welcome to What's Cooking. Today I'm up here in our cooking section, I like to call it, our 641 section, which has a lot of our cookbooks up here. And you can just see all the different cookbooks that we have. Any type of nationality, diet kind of cookbooks, what to make, cakes, to cookies, to stews, to how to use some of your appliances. We have the books here in the library in our cookbook section. So come on and join me because today we're going to be talking about pickling, canning, preserving jellies and jams. So welcome to What's Cooking. Come on. So you got a tour of our cookbook section here at the library, and here we are. We're going to talk about pickling, jellies and jams, what you can do with some of those fruits and vegetables that you may have collected this summer at farmers markets or from your own garden or just shopping around at local produce places. We're going to start off with some jellies and jams. I bought a lot of blueberries this year. Blueberries were really good this year thanks to all the rain, so I was running out of eating blueberries all the time, so I decided I was going to make some of my own type of blueberry jelly or jam or preserve. I just call it a little bit of everything. And I made my blueberries. Oop, there we go. And it's blueberries, water, and I added a little sherbet and a little bit of sugar and let it boil down. It's a little thinner, not as thick as some of your jellies, and you can put it on waffles or with muffins. It's really good. And I controlled the sugar in it so it's not too sweet, but just sweet enough. And you still taste a lot of the blueberries because they're pretty whole still, which I kind of like. So that was my experiment with using up some of the blueberries that I picked this year. And I also found these little ball jars are just enough, like even for gifts if you want to give people like a little bit of something homemade, like salsa or jellies or jams. These little ball jars are really great. They're all sealed up really nice. They've got the rubber seals inside of them, and you can add all your things in there. Good for refrigerating. They last pretty well long in the refrigerator with your jellies and jams, but if anything like in my household, they don't stay around that too long. They're used up very well. So, and I also like to buy different types of jellies and jams and try some, like strawberry, peaches, blueberries, boysenberries. I mean, the list can go on. Apricots, peaches. Like I said, it can go on and on. But most important thing to remember is if you're going to do this, make your own and put them in jars, make sure your jars are sterile. Boil them, make sure they're clean, and then proceed to follow your directions on how you'd like to make jellies or jams. So a lot of people say, so what's the difference between a jam and a jelly? Well, a jelly is boiling everything down and straining it, and you just get the juice and add the sugar to it, and it comes out like a jelly consistency. A jam is more the fruit or vegetables, whatever you're doing, is chopped up a little bit finely, and you have a little more consistency to it. Now, a preserve, which we have here, a preserve is they chop up the fruits or vegetables again, but not a lot. You have more chunkier type of preserve. So a preserve is more chunkier, a jam is a little more thicker, a jelly is more shakier, as we call it. And a marmalade, okay, marmalades are usually citrus. So they use orange or pineapple or any type of citrus fruit to make marmalades. Now, another interesting thing too, moving on, is like I said, you could pectate or you could use sugar, you could use wax top. A lot of people, I remember they used to take wax and they seal their jars with waxes, but now, like I said, having these jars with these seal tights, they're really good. So moving off from jellies and jams and marmalades and spreads, I'm going to show you some of the different types of jars that I have used through the years. I grew up with my father pickling a lot of different things, and he loved these ball jars. And he used to buy the little rubber part, which I don't have, and he'd put it in there, and he'd do all his pickling. And I remember going down in the basement, there's a whole shelf, a couple of shelves just with pickled peppers, pickled tomatoes, anything that he came out of his garden, he pickled. And he loved it, and then during the winter time, we'd always go down and open up the jars. And once we opened them, they went right into the refrigerator, and they tasted just as good as when you first put them in the jars. And I'm sure you've seen people make pickled peppers, pickled pickles, Try saying that 100 times. In this jar we have pickled peppers and carrots and green tomatoes. Now this is an old recipe and a lot of Europeans use this. My father used to fill the kitchen sink with cold water and he would take kosher salt. It's really important to use kosher thick kind of salt. Do not use table salt because we'll make everything brown. Kosher salt is a better salt for preserving if you're doing pickling. And he would fill up the sink, add the salt, and to test if there was enough salt in the brine that he would make to put his peppers in, he would take an egg, and if the egg floated, that meant there was enough salt. If it sank, that means, still need a little bit more salt in my brine. And that's how he would adjust his salt levels when he would do his pickling peppers. And it has been used a lot. Through the years, we could add garlic to it. You could add a hot pepper to it to make it a hot type of pickled pepper, or garlic if you wanted it more with flavor. So there's been changes made, but the basic recipe that he used was the water, the kosher salt, sometimes a little bit of vinegar, but the egg always tested your salt content. And speaking of vinegar, if you're going to use vinegar, use a 5% acid-based type of vinegar. Cider vinegar and white vinegar are very good for pickling and like vegetables if you're doing pickling of any kind. If you want a sweeter pickle, just add a little sugar to it. If you want a more kosher type of pickle, then you're going to use more vinegar and kosher salt to it. So these are some kind of a few little tips about pickling, jamming, and jellying. Another thing too, if you're going to make your own pickles, pick your cucumbers, make sure they're not waxed. You want a fresh pickle, no wax on it. You have to use it within 24 hours or keep it in your refrigerator for a week, and then you have to use it if you're going to be pickling with cucumbers. It's really important because then they'll go too soft and they won't firm up very well when you're doing pickling. So these are just a few little tidbits about pickling, preserving, jellies and jams. But if you really want to learn more, and if you really like to have that fresh fruit or vegetable flavor in the winter time or in the fall time and taste the flavors of your fruits, then come on and get some of these books that give you more instructions and tell you and give you ideas of all different things that you can pickle, preserve, jelly, or jam. That's our episode of What's Cooking, so come on down and check them out.